All right, today we're diving into the work of a true modern master of traditional Chinese medicine, Dr. Nihai Shah. This is a man who got this incredible reputation for treating some of the most complex, modern illnesses you can think of. But here's the kicker. He wasn't using brand new drugs or fancy technology. His main tools were ancient.
I mean, think about that. He was cracking open medical texts written over 2,000 years ago to deal with things like autoimmune disorders and cancer. So how on earth did he bridge that massive gap in time? What was his secret to making this ancient wisdom so incredibly powerful today? Okay, let's get into it.
So the first piece of the puzzle you have to understand is that Dr. Ni's work didn't just appear out of nowhere. His entire system was built on a really deep, scholarly foundation of classical Chinese medical texts.
And what's just wild here is the time scale we're talking about. Dr. Ning really saw himself as just one link in a very long chain. He was, standing on the shoulders of giants. You have Zhang Zhongjing, way back in the Han Dynasty, around 200 AD. His work was the absolute bedrock for Dr. Ning. And it continues all the way through these other masters from the Tang and Yuan dynasties.
And this slide really gives you a peek into his library, his classical toolbox. Right at the very heart of it was the Shanghan Zebinglun. That was foundational. But he wasn't a one-book practitioner. No way. He was pulling wisdom from a whole range of other classics, kind of weaving their principles together to build this incredibly comprehensive toolkit. He was using an entire tradition.
Okay, so knowing the texts is one thing, but how did he actually apply them? This is where we get to the absolute core of his method. This is the real key that unlocked these ancient formulas for our modern world.
It all comes down to this one principle, Bian Zhang Lun Ji. Basically, it means you don't treat the name of the disease. You don't treat diabetes or arthritis. Instead, you treat the patient's specific, unique collection of symptoms, what Chinese medicine calls the pattern. The modern diagnosis, it's almost beside the point. The pattern is everything.
Here's a great way to think about it. Dr. Ni was like a master detective. When he saw a patient, it was like walking onto a crime scene. He didn't care about the name of the crime, whether it was called a robbery or something else. He ignored that. He just focused on the clues, the muddy footprints, the broken window, the time of day. For him, those clues were the symptoms, and they would lead him straight to the real culprit, the underlying pattern.
Now, I know this can all sound a little abstract, so how does it actually work in the real world? Let's get practical. We'll take one common complaint and see how this detective work can lead to totally different solutions.
Okay, check out this case file for constipation. You've got 3 different patients, all with the same modern label, but look at the clues. Patient 1 comes in with frequent urination, stool-like pellets. Okay, those clues point directly to the formula Ma Zi Ren Wan. But now look at patient 2. Pale urine, a white tongue coating. That suggests a cold pattern, so you need a totally different warming formula. And then patient 3 has bloating, cane, a yellow tongue, classic signs of heat, which needs a third, completely different formula. So see, same crime, but 3 different culprits mean 3 different solutions. That is pattern differentiation in action.
But it wasn't just about prescribing herbs. Not at all. That was only one part of the picture. He was a huge believer in the truly holistic philosophy, where that line between the food you eat and the medicine you take gets really, really blurry. Yeah, he was a huge champion of this idea of food as medicine, looking at everyday ingredients through a therapeutic lens. So for him, bitter melon wasn't just a vegetable. Its cold property made it a tool to clear heat. Onions and pumpkin weren't just for flavor. Their warming nature could actually help support digestion and warm the whole body. This kind of integrated approach was just fundamental to how he practiced.
Okay, but this brings up a huge question, a really important one. When you're using formulas that are hundreds, even thousands of years old, with some very potent ingredients, well, how did he make sure they were actually safe for people today?
And you gotta ask, right? We're talking about some seriously powerful substances here, some of which are known to be pretty toxic if you don't use them correctly. So was this approach just reckless, or was there a system in place to manage that risk?
And here's the thing, Dr. Ni was totally open about the risks. He regularly used these very potent, sometimes toxic herbs right out of the classical texts, things like aconite, even lead oxide. He didn't shy away from them because the ancient doctors said they were necessary for certain patterns. But that meant safety had to be, without question, the #1 priority.
So how did he handle it? with these incredibly meticulous safety protocols, which, by the way, were also passed down through the ancient texts. Nothing was left to chance. There were specific prep rules, like wrapping certain minerals in cloth before cooking. The cooking itself was highly controlled. Something like aconite had to be cooked in a very specific way to make it safe. Even how you added ingredients mattered. Some were never boiled at all. And then there was the final absolute rule. You stop the medicine the moment the main symptoms are gone.
This principle, Zhongbing Jiji, was completely non-negotiable. Think of it like a firefighter. Their job is to put out the fire, and as soon as it's out, they turn off the hose, immediately. You use that immense power for a very specific job, and the second it's done, you shut it off. It's the ultimate built-in safety switch.
And that, right there, is what it all boils down to. Dr. Nye's real genius wasn't just that he had memorized all these ancient texts, it was that he combined that deep knowledge with an equally deep sense of responsibility. Knowing which key fits the lock is one thing, but knowing how to turn that key with precision, with care, and with safety, well, that's true mastery.
So it kind of leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? In our constant rush for the next big medical breakthrough, what if we're overlooking a different kind of innovation? The kind that comes from applying ancient wisdom with modern rigor. Dr. Nie's work really makes you wonder. Maybe one of the most powerful blueprints for our future health has actually been waiting for us in our past all along.